introduction, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to OIS. And I guess your first lesson about OIS is we start on time. It's 9 o'clock precisely. So, welcome to OIS, to the Oberoi International School. We're different. Let me say that at the outset. We haven't been around for that long. I like to think of us as the newest and brightest star on the Mumbai school front. Let's start by talking about what we're all about. What's really important to us? What is OIS about? We think this is really important. We think that happy kids learn better than unhappy kids. Any disagreement? We think that happy teachers are more effective. We think a school should be a warm place. We think kids have a fundamental right to feel valued, to feel they belong, to feel safe. I just did something. We're a school that's full of kids, so inevitably we're about fun. And because we're about kids, we're about family. And because we're about kids, we're about the future. Let me give you some essential facts. You've had a sneak look at our facility. It is a wonderful facility. I've seen a large number of the international and so-called international schools in Mumbai, and I think in terms of facility we are easily the best, but then I'm biased. We have a lovely little pool you can splash around in on the 4th floor. We've got a competition pool. That's on the 4th floor, the other one's the 1st floor. You see in the background we're in a very green area. It's a different part of Mumbai. We've got this wonderful auditorium that seats 400. We have 2 gyms. If you go up on the roof you can have a game of tennis. And we have a full-size cricket field with a mango tree. We are 8 years old. We have 1,634 students, 80% of whom are local, but the rest come from all over the place. The expat component of our student body is on the increase, as more and more multinational companies are finding that South Mumbai is just too expensive and they're moving up north and bringing their families with them. And I think that's a good thing. I have nothing against Indian kids. I think Indian kids are great, but I would like our population here to better represent the world that these kids are going to go into. We have 276 teachers, and they come from all over the place as well. Our student-faculty ratio, and remember, a low number here is a good number, is 5.9. So yes, we have a teacher for every 6 kids. But that's expensive. So, with one hand on your wallet, let's have a look at how we compare, not to competitor schools. We have no competitor schools. We are, in Mumbai, I believe, unique. But let's look at some other schools, and let's compare fees as they were in May of this year. At grade 5, we're the cheapest of the lot. I haven't included Ambani because in grade 5, Ambani is an Indian school. IBDP, the graph suggests that we're more expensive than Jamnabai. I think that situation has changed, but don't forget that this is in May. There's a new school year, everything is changing. Ours has moved from there to about there, and the one at the top's moved all the way over to about here. They're the only 2 I know about. Talk to you a little bit about accreditation because it's important. When internationals, there's lots of different accreditations. We're accredited by the Mumbai Education Authority. We don't tell anybody that. When an international school speaks of full accreditation, they're talking about one of these 4 organizations at the bottom. The Council of International Schools, and the other 3 are American accrediting agencies. All 4 of these groups share the same protocol. This is what they mean by full accreditation. This is the gold standard. In the world today, there are 8,231 international schools. 451 of them, including us, are accredited. That's 5.5%. Why so few? Because it's really hard. There are 401 international schools in India. 10 of them carry this full accreditation. None of the schools whose fees we compared before, except us. We're fully authorised to offer the IB diploma, have been since 2009. We were reauthorised in 2014. We're fully authorised to offer the IB primary years program. We are not fully authorised to offer the IB middle years program, but we will be December of 2017. We are in the process of implementing the middle years program and getting rid of the IGCSE because it's very old-fashioned. We have a special partnership with the IB. The IB Asia Pacific region has recently taken a strategic decision to enter into a special relationship with the flagship IB school in each of their major countries. So in China, you've got Western Academy Beijing. In Japan, you've got the second oldest international school in the world. In Thailand, you've got NIST, in my opinion, the coolest international school on the planet. In Australia, of course, it's Wesley College. And in India, they looked at the 130 IB schools in India and selected their flagship. That's where we are. The Oberoi International School brand is a very strong brand. And that's not all good news. A strong brand makes it a lot easier for me to employ the best teachers. And a strong brand means we're not short of kids. We have a very healthy enrolment and substantial waiting lists, but it's not always for the wrong reasons. That's the disadvantage of a strong brand. Because what we're finding now is we're getting parents wanting to enroll their kids here because it's a brand everybody knows about. And that's not right. You know, they think that saying my kid goes to Oberoi is a bit like saying I drive a Mercedes. If you want your child to come here, you need to know, understand, and embrace how we educate kids. I'm told I have to talk about results, something I hate doing, because a lot of people have this mistaken belief that good results indicate a good school, and really, that's not a natural relationship. You want a good school? You want me to make this school into a school with top results? That's easy. Get rid of all the children who aren't going to be all that successful, only accept the really, really good ones, and watch them do their thing. But if I don't talk about results, you'll think they're lousy, right? So I better do something about it. The IGCSE at the end of grade 10 can be graded an A, B, C, D, E, or F or G. Officially, F and G are failing grades. I'm not sure where in history E became a pass, but I guess somewhere along the line it did. And if you're really smart, you can get an A+. In May of this year, our kids, our grade 10 kids, sat 729 individual IGCSE exams, and in 51% of those, slightly over half of those, the results were A or A star. Our results are good, okay? Can we stop talking about them? No, we have to talk about the IB diploma. IB diploma is scored from 0 to 45. 24 is considered a pass, with certain other conditions that have to be met. Our average was almost 10 points more than the passing grade. Our average was 33.4. How does that compare? The world average is 30.2. Our average is exactly on the 70th percentile. Some of you are writing this down. You're going to compare. Did other schools do better than that? They must be better schools. We're on the 70th percentile. That means the average OIS graduate is ahead of 70% of the world's IB diploma graduates. Our results are good, right? We have a 96.3% pass rate compared to the world average of 80%. And that's interesting. The IB diploma worldwide pass rate has been between 80 and 85%. In other words, 15 to 20% of kids fail the IB diploma worldwide, and that's been the situation for the last 15 to 20 years. If you go back 15 years, the failure rate for A levels was also 15%. Now it's 3%. Everyone wants to know how many kids we've got over 40, which is a really silly question because the kids that get over 40, they're the really easy ones. But anyway, every eighth kid got over 40. And 42% got more than 35. The results could be better, and because you're going into the IB diploma, let me get on my hobby horse and talk for a little bit about this particular subject. You know that IB diploma subjects are offered at higher level and standard level. Maths is an exception, it's offered at 3 levels. Math higher, the IB diploma freely admits, is a very special subject for kids with a special brain, a special way of looking at things. They state quite openly it is only suitable for 5% of the student population. And yet worldwide, we have 14% of kids doing math higher level. Particularly in countries like India, China, Middle East, with very ambitious parents who push their kids in. Well, you've got to do math higher. 14%. So what happens to these other kids that aren't suited there? They're going to spend the last 2 years of their schooling struggling like crazy with a subject they cannot comprehend. And that's going to impact all their results. And at the end of the day, you're going to get a kid who could have said, I got 42 for my IB, will be saying, I got 34, but I did math higher. Should be 5%, it's 14% worldwide. In this school, it's 41%. And I'd like that to change. On a more general issue, who should be choosing your child's subjects? Your child. How should your child be choosing those subjects? They should be chosen according to what they really like and what they're good at. End of story. See, the objective here is to develop an educated individual, because that's what the world needs. You go to the high finance corridors of the banks, and you look at you ask the people who inhabit those, what's your degree in? Is it economics? Is it business management? Very often it's art history or something like that. The IB diploma is not on-the-job training. My son's a veterinarian. He didn't do biology. It's not career training. Okay, as a school, do we face challenges? Yes, let's be upfront about that. We operate in an environment which is, shall we say, obsessed with grades, which is a little bit counter to us, because what we try to do here is to take these kids and develop all of these things as far as we possibly can. Take a look at those and tell me one that isn't important. Okay? IB exam score is in there because it's important. Getting your kid into the college that suits them best, not necessarily the most elite college, the college that suits them best is really, really important. But so is everything else. And what I'm finding these days is that the parents I speak to, they get this. They understand what it's all about, up until about grade 9. And after grade 9, we find this happening. And what happens then, in those crucial last 4 years of your child's schooling, we stop raising our kids and we start developing their brand so that we can market that brand to universities. And in that process, it's all about the exams. Which is really strange because in the rest of the world, exams are dying out. Most of Canada don't set exams anymore because they're not particularly useful. Harvard University, the School of Arts and Sciences, the biggest school in Harvard, no longer has exams. They focus on what a student does during the year, not what a student can do in 3 hours. When you think about it, that's not a particularly useful skill, is it? And if I were giving this presentation in 20 years' time, I wouldn't have to talk about this because there would not be exams. But we're not there yet, and your kids are not there yet, and those exams are still important to them. The other challenge we face here is that we deal with kids who grow up in an environment where rules are given, let's say, a sort of relaxed view. You walk around here and you see things like this all the time. People tend to do their own thing. Rules are not particularly important. And the kids are surrounded by this. And so trying to instill academic honesty and integrity sometimes can be a challenge. Because the commonplace has a way of becoming acceptable. I'm willing to bet each and every one of you parents sitting out there now has heard these words from their kid. Oh, but Mum, everyone's doing it. You heard that? Yeah. The commonplace becomes acceptable. And these kids are surrounded by it. Check this out. This is our school's website with me looking fairly ridiculous, but saying very smart things. I've got a great big screen that I've written there. You know, the bit I like best is this. We are, as one parent described us, the school that children run to in the mornings. I think that's really important. And so does at least one other school, who have exactly the same passage. We are, as one parent described us, the school that children run to in the mornings. My point is, our kids are surrounded by this. They're in an environment where the concept of outsourcing is a very natural one to them. So on the IB diploma, when they have to write an extended essay, and there's lots and lots of tutoring companies here in Mumbai who will write it for you, plagiarism is just another form of outsourcing, isn't it? And there are far too many rumours of schools that will collude with students to beat the system. Please be aware, we are not one of those schools. We will not help students beat the system. We will help them do their best honestly. And if we come across students who are not being academically honest, there will be consequences. Because all of these things are important, including those. We live in a rapidly changing world. Not only is it changing rapidly, but it's changing rapidlier and rapidlier. And it's kind of getting hard to keep up. All those jobs, I'm guessing most of them didn't exist 5 years ago. All these jobs, I'm guessing most of them won't be around in 5 years' time. It's a lot of fun. Google it. What jobs won't be around in 5 years' time? I found one list that had doctor on it. The traditional education that prepares kids to be good little employees, to perform routine functions reliably because they have a homogeneous skill set, all kids capable of the same things, we've proved that with an exam and everything else. I prefer to call that the unemployed skill set, because that's not what the world needs. Last year in the United Kingdom, 90% of new jobs were awarded in the so-called creative industries. The world has changed a great deal. It's not all about the grades anymore. A kid with 83% is not inherently better than a kid with 82%. Do you want to hear a story? It's not true. This is me, that is true. This is me at 18 years of age, at the wheel of my prized possession, a Morris 1100, which was a pile of rubbish, but I was very proud of it. I'm a really good driver. I know that because I've sat an exam about driving. And I didn't just pass it, I got 99%. There were 100 questions, I got 99 of them right. The only one I got wrong, and I still remember it, was the question that asked, which of these 3 pedals is the brake? I'm a good driver. Please go away from here with a view that we're different. We are deeply concerned about kids. We want the very best for our kids. We want to produce the very best exam results that we can, but we also want to produce the very best people that we can. We do this, and we do it very, very well. We just don't think it's enough. Okay, I thank you for listening. There'll be a 30-second break now while we swap computers around, and I'll pass you on to the next person. Thanks for listening.
Hi everyone, my name is Sandy Van Newton and I'm the Head of Secondary here at OIS. And between myself and Ulka and Tiffany and Pooja, we are going to talk to you about mostly the IB, the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program. So we're going to talk a bit in general about what the IB is, and we're going to talk in some detail about what the IB is at OIS. So the purpose of today, I think introducing OIS, I think Neil has done a really good job of that. We're proudly different here, and I hope that's come through loud and clear. What we're now going to do is we're going to talk about the IB diploma. Why would you do it? We're going to talk about the OIS diploma. Why would you do it? Choosing courses for grade 11, IB and universities, and questions. So there's definitely time for questions at the end, but what I would say to you is if you've got a question, feel free to raise your hand and ask it at the time, and mostly we'll answer it on the spot. Occasionally we might say, wait 2 slides, and we'll answer it then. So oh, that's not very clear. Fortunately, we have it in other ways as well. The diploma program, the IB diploma program, is a 2-year program. And this is quite a complex model that everything about the IB stems from this model. And it's a lot more than just a fairly pale graphic on my particular slide. So what we're going to do is we're going to just introduce you to this model and each part of it. We're going to start from the centre, because look who's at the centre, the kids. And that's where they should be. And so I think to begin with here, we will have Ulka is going to talk to us about the learner profile.
So as we just discussed that, it looks like a... Sorry?
It's on.
Is it on now?
It's on? Sorry. It's on? Yeah.
So, sorry about that. So, though the concentric circles look too complex,
I think we just want to simplify a few things today and stress more on the learning that happens at OIS and how it happens differently at OIS. So the most important thing for us as teachers and as school is the core or the heart of the whole program is the learner profile. And when I say the learner profile, it is 10 qualities that every student should aspire to, and as teachers we plan to encourage the student at every step. Yes, academic is important, but I think academics would be incomplete if we are not teaching our students to embrace these qualities, to do better learning, and to embrace these, to even stand out as an individual person as he moves on towards his future goals. So how do we do it different? So the most important thing is that, as Mr. Neil just mentioned some time back, it's a happy place here. We want students to be happy, and then to have them happy, the whole learning is catered around the happiness of the students, where the students are volunteering to do more than what they are being taught in the classrooms. Most important is we are providing them a very safe environment, at the same time a very open forum for the students to explore. When I mean explore, it's not just learning happening in classrooms, but it's more beyond classrooms. So the students are, you should see a day in school where the students start off in classrooms, but then they are in the IT labs, they are in the libraries, they are in the lobbies, working on the individual projects, working on formats of presentation. And the most important thing is for us, of course, learning and teaching is an important factor, but I think we also add to it the celebration at the time after the achievement. So it's very important for us to celebrate every student's achievement. I think that's the best way to encourage students to do more better in what they are doing. So as discussed, we move on to the outer circle of the program, which is a core element, that's the extended essay. So how do we look at the extended essay? Of course, when we read about it, it sounds to be, and it looks very complex, 4,000 words. But I think it's achievable, because most important is, I think we need the students to let decide what is the passion and the drive for the subject that they would like to see themselves complete this 4,000 words with a better understanding and involvement towards the completion with a satisfaction, because this process is still an ongoing. So, the conclusions not every time have to be there as stated. But it is important that they experience this whole process as a subject of writing a research paper, which probably could be a support system for them when they go to the university to write their research papers. And the important factor about this extended essay is we are also teaching the students to be more independent, to be more responsible, to be integrated, and to be ethical when they are writing this research paper.
I forgot to mention, sorry, when I was introducing, I'll just have to speak up. When I was introducing Ulka, I didn't mention that she is the IBDP coordinator here at OIS, and also she is one of our university counsellors. So she's got this very unique view from sort of both sides. We're moving on now so we talk about the core of the IB diploma program, and the elements of the core, it's back on. It's back on. The elements of the core are the extended essay, theory of knowledge, and CAS, creativity, activity, service. Now the idea here is that TOK is theory of knowledge. It's both a taught course as well as it's embedded in all of the individual subjects that a student takes. I would argue that it is literally the beating heart of the IB. It makes kids think differently. It we have our fingers in their little brains up to about the third knuckle, and they come out going, whoa, I never even thought of that. They're thinking differently. The way they are looking at the world around them and how everything interacts is different. And so, you know, we challenge them about how do we know what we know? We challenge their ideas of what is proof, what is belief, what is faith. And oh my goodness, it's an incredibly powerful subject. And I think if you pull that out, you've lost a lot of what makes the IB really, really special. So all students do TOK, and they do it, as I say, as a taught course, as well as embedded into their subject. So they really get to see how subjects link together, and I guess they just get to question and look at the world through slightly different eyes, and it's incredible to see kids coming out of this program. The third element of the core, so we've got the EE, we've got TOK, and then we've got CAS, so creativity, action and service. The IB takes its academics very, very seriously. It's rigorous and all those things, but also the IB believes that there's a lot more to a kid. They don't want kids to sit and become bookworms and sit there and do nothing but study for 2 years. They really, really, really don't. They believe that it's so important that a student engages in activities and programs and projects which kind of look at that exercise the creative part of the brain, whether or not that's solving a problem in a creative way, or whether it is artistic or musical, or there's so many different ways that you can be creative. But the IB very much values that, and so do we. I think that is why IB and OIS seem to go so well together, because these fundamental beliefs are the same between the IB and us. So the image on the left is sort of the idea of creativity as intelligence, having fun.
Question?
Yes, of course.
How do you help the children balance between the academics and the CAS?
We are definitely going to get to that. If we don't, can you please ask that again, okay, at the end? I may not do it right now, but we will certainly get to the idea of balance. So activity or action, it's kids have got their heart rate's got to get up, and they've got to perhaps sweat a bit. That's action. IB and we believe that if you're going to be healthy in here, you need to be healthy out here. And your well-being, as well as your ability to do well in your academics, is going to be linked to your activity. How often have you struggled with a concept? And if you just sit there poking at it, nothing happens. But if you go for a run or do something else, something clicks into place and you've got it. And so there is that you will sleep better, you will think better, you will learn better, and you will live longer and healthier if you have some action in your life. IB believes it, OIS believes it. The S stands for service. And the IB and OIS, we want our students to know that we're in a very, very, very privileged bubble. And the IB wants us all to be aware of others beyond ourselves. And so the idea of service is really at the core of the IB. So all of our students must engage in activities and projects which hit the creativity, the action and the service throughout the 2-year program. This is not a taught course. However, they have all sorts of opportunities to engage in activities which are put on by the school if they want to, or they can go out and find a service activity in their area which suits, and that's totally fine. We have CAS advisors, we have CAS coordinators, we have CAS activities, all sorts of things. Okay, so the CAS is the third element of what we call the core of the IB diploma. core, outside the core, we have the academic subjects. Now the IB offers, I should have counted them up, my guess is probably 60 or 70 different subjects. And each one of those subjects belongs in one of 6 different groups. And the groups are positioned around the outside here. So the first group is called Studies in Language and Literature. So let's just look at the literature part of this. If a student is studying the literature component of a course in this group, they're going to be looking at literature that is written in the language of instruction, so English in this case. So they will be looking at some literature written in English, but they will also be looking at some literature that is translated to English. That's important. They're going to be reading some modern literature as well as some classics. The IB insists that we give a range of our literature comes from a variety of times in our history. The literature that they're going to read is going to be different genres. We insist on it. The IB insists on it. So you can't do all, action reading. It has, some of it has to be. There will be some poetry. There will be various different genres. So the literature part, very, 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 very strong. And then the analysis required of students on that literature, of course, is quite deep. Now the language part. This is also really cool. The language part of these courses, it's looking at how we use language to communicate, to entertain, to convince, to shock. All these different things that we do with language, we study in this component. We look at how the language you use is going to be different depending on the purpose and the context. We look at the evolution of language and how it changes. My goodness, it's changed in my lifetime, and I'll tell you what, SMS is largely responsible for it. Think of how many of you are sending texts with really strange words that aren't words but are now words because of the tech. So we look at the evolution of language. So this approach to language is really, really, really exciting. And so all subjects that live in this particular group will be leading students through both language and literature parts. The second group, language acquisition. The IB, I guess it's the international part of their name that should have given us a clue, that they think language is really important. They value so incredibly, as do we, the concept of multilingualism. So students must engage in a language other than the language of instruction in the school. There are different levels. To some extent, they must engage. So some students will be virtually bilingual in their second language. Others might be just starting out, and there are different levels available. But you can't get the diploma without it. And I think it's speaking towards the idea of the globalised world and understanding and compassion, etc. with these language. I think it's inevitable that when you study a language, you also get a window into the culture through that study. So I think that there's more to learning Spanish than speaking Spanish. It's learning the culture of Spanish-speaking countries and people. So that's the second group. The third group is called individuals and societies. Classically, that would refer to your humanities or your social studies type subjects. So it would have history, geography, psychology, economics, business, etc. All those things that you would generally expect to find in a humanities program. But I think what stands the IB's approach to these apart is they look at how an individual works within a society, how a society works upon and affects an individual. It looks at the ethics surrounding many things. What's more important, the individual or the greater good? and what are the ethics associated with that. So it's not just a matter of, oh, we're going to march through the timeline and chronologically go through the history of Europe. That's not how it's completely conceptually driven, all of these subjects. And so they will study the idea, for example, of migration, and then they will illustrate it from various different time periods. So rather than a chronological approach, it's a conceptual approach. Group 4 is your experimental sciences, and there is a huge emphasis on experimental. Not just experiments that you're going to dutifully write up and hand in to the teacher to be graded, but also experimental in where you're given equipment, you're given the run of the lab, and you are inquiring. You have in your mind come up with perhaps a hypothesis or the beginnings of a hypothesis, and you do some fiddling and testing, and that might hold your hypothesis up, it may disprove it, you may have to change it, but if you actually end up uncovering understanding or a theory that matches other people's theories that are written about, you're much more likely to remember it. So it's a very strongly inquiry-based program where you uncover your learning rather than just get told, here's the rules, let's go and use them. It's like if you can find out those rules to some extent, you're much more likely to A, remember them, and B, be able to use them. So IB has all of your classic sciences, biology, chemistry, physics, environmental. It also houses things like sports science and computer science, all with a very experimental part to them. Mathematics, I won't go on too much because Neil did. You've got to do a maths as well. There are 3 different levels of maths. Higher, those are for people who would rather stay in and solve problems than go out and speak to people. I say that sort of jokingly because I'm a maths teacher and I love maths. But higher level is not for everyone. It's for, that small minority of people who have both the aptitude and the complete joy that goes with it. Standard level is still a challenging subject with a great degree of, it covers all your calculus and your heavy trig, etc. And then you've got math studies, which is for people who, there's a lot more statistics and it's probably a lot more applicable in many ways. And so people who are going into courses that would need some statistics, then often math studies would be the best for them. The final group is the arts. The IB and OIS, we really, really, really believe in this holistic education, and that exercising your creative side is as important as exercising your mathematical side, for example. So in the arts, that has things like music and theatre and visual arts, of course, visual arts and film and a few other things that the IB offers there. So I think I have one more thing. Each of these subjects, almost each of these subjects, that you can choose, so you will choose them from the various groups. And as Neil said, you can do them at the higher level or you can do them at the standard level. Do not think standard equals easy. It does not. But the higher level allows students to go, they study more, they study it deeper, and they are held to higher expectations or degree of analysis, etc. So you can go with your passions and what you're really, really good at the higher level, but you still have to exercise that, the idea of, okay, I'm a natural scientist, but I still need to be able to make a reasoned argument, so I have to still do English. So the higher and the standard, I think Ulka will now talk to you about the nuts and bolts, about what you actually have to do in order to do the diploma. Over to you, Ulka.
So, the international mindedness is something that we are preparing our students to be. it doesn't have to be taught. I think it is something that has to come within. And as I would like to just go back to a few things. As I said, we need to introduce them or teach them. I wouldn't say teach them, but help them understand the value system. It could be a value system from home, it could be value system from the school, or even it could be the learning profile. So when we are saying all that, we are preparing the students to be open-minded. I mean, to make a niche of their own in the international world with an approach which is more positive, with an approach which is full of integrity, with an approach which has respect to each other. So at OIS, we believe in this most importantly, and I think it's not taught. So we don't have a lesson that we teach, but it is incorporated in the conversations. It's incorporated when we have conversations and at the time of sports on field. So this is very important, and we believe that this is what is going to make each individual stand out in the 21st century. And we would be proud to say that so far, I think we are really achieving it to our best. So just to summarize the whole IB diploma, what it looks like and what are the contents, maybe we could just run through this briefly. So yes, we have 6 subjects for the diploma program. There are 3 subjects a student needs to take at higher level, and there are 3 subjects that the student needs to take at SL level. The diploma program would be incomplete if we do not complete the core. That's the extended essay, the TOK, and the CAS. How is a student supposed to pick these subjects? As we keep saying, the students need to pick these subjects for its passion, for the love for the subject, and what he could do better in the coming 2 years. So the student is offered a subject in every group, apart from group 6. So what happens is, if the student is hesitant to take a group 6, he can still take another subject from group 3 or group 4 to complete the 3 HLs and 3 SLs. So what do we offer at OIS? So just to move on and a glimpse of what are the subjects that we offer in group 1. We are offering English A language and literature at